Welcome to Crossdressing Stories. Here, we share personal stories, celebrate self-expression. If you're on your own journey or simply curious, you've found your community. Subscribe and join the conversation.
Mrs. Alice Foster, Maya said, the name rolling off her tongue like a favorite song. It has a nice ring to it. I looked at my hand, nestled in hers, at the simple gold band that felt both impossibly new and like it had been there forever. It really does, I agreed, my cheeks flushing with a warmth that had nothing to do with the wine we'd been drinking. We were in the quiet intimacy of our honeymoon suite. The day's magic still lingered in the air, a scent of rose petals and champagne. Outside the balcony doors, the city was a glittering tapestry spread out below, but my entire world was right here, sitting on the edge of the king-sized bed. I had changed out of my ivory wedding gown and into a simple silk robe, the fabric a familiar, comforting whisper against my skin. Maya, having traded her stunning velvet suit for a pair of silk pajamas, looked at me with a slow, warm smile that made my heart feel impossibly full. "You know what I was just thinking about?" she asked, her voice a low, intimate murmur. "What?" I whispered. "I was remembering that first night," she said, her eyes twinkling. "When I found you in my bedroom, shaking in that little blue slip dress, looking like you were about to have a heart attack." I couldn't help but laugh, a genuine, happy sound that felt miles away from the person I was back then. "Don't remind me. I think I almost died of shame. And look at you now," she continued, her gaze sweeping over me with a love so profound it still made my breath catch. She reached out, her fingers toying with the lapel of my robe. "A bride. A wife. You have an entire closet full of your own beautiful dresses. You're not borrowing mine anymore." A playful, wicked glint entered her eyes. "Though," she added, her voice dropping to a seductive whisper as she began to untie the sash of my robe, "I wouldn't mind if you wanted to borrow a thing or two of mine from time to time." I laughed, a sound full of relief and a future that felt boundless as I leaned in to kiss her. It was a deep, lingering kiss full of the promises of the night ahead and all the nights to come. She pulled back slightly, her forehead resting against mine, her hands coming up to cup my face. Her touch was as gentle and as revolutionary as it had been on the very first night. "Welcome home, Alice," she whispered. And as she pulled me close, our hands tangling together, I knew that I finally was home. Not in a place, but in a person. And finally, completely in myself. The journey to becoming Alice was not a single leap, but 1,000 small, deliberate steps. It was a path paved with terrifying doctor's appointments and exhilarating moments of self-discovery, and that path led directly here, to this perfect day in early October. As I walked down the aisle, the crisp air rustling the skirt of my dress, my eyes found Maya waiting for me under a canopy of autumn gold trees. She stood there in a stunning custom-tailored suit of deep sapphire blue velvet, her hair swept up, a radiant and confident smile on her face. She was my rock, my partner, the most handsome woman I had ever seen, and the love in her eyes was so powerful it nearly brought me to my knees. We wrote our own vows. Maya spoke first, her voice clear and steady. She spoke of her love for the soul she first met years ago, and how she had the profound privilege of watching that soul blossom into the magnificent woman who stood before her today. When it was my turn, I spoke through tears of gratitude, my voice thick with emotion as I held her hands in mine. "Maya," I began, my own hand trembling. "You didn't just accept my secret, you embraced it. You didn't just watch me transform, you were the architect of my liberation. You saw the woman in me long before I had the courage to see her myself. You gave me more than love. You gave me myself. And I promise to spend the rest of my life cherishing the incredible gift of being your wife." The culmination of this journey, 2 years after it truly began, was this small ceremony in a beautiful botanical garden. We were surrounded by the handful of friends and family who had supported us, their own faces shining with happy tears. I had agonized for months over my wedding dress before finding it, an elegant ivory-colored gown with a lace-covered bodice, long sheer sleeves, and a simple flowing skirt that whispered around my ankles. As I'd stood in front of the mirror just an hour before, with Maya's best friend helping with the final touches, I saw a woman I finally, completely recognized. A woman who was happy, confident, and deeply in love. Alice. When we were finally pronounced wives and Maya leaned in to kiss me, the world erupted in a shower of applause and tossed flower petals. The kiss was soft and sure, a seal on our past and a promise for our future. A moment of pure, unadulterated joy. Holding the official court order in my hands was one of the most profound moments of that 2-year journey. Seeing my name, Alice, printed in stark black ink by the state, made it feel more real than I could have ever imagined. I was real. It was one of many confirmations along the way, a sign that the woman on the inside was finally, officially, making her way to the surface. The physical changes had been gradual, and then all at once. My skin softened. The sharp angles of my face began to gently round out. My chest became tender and started to bud, a slow, miraculous blossoming that I would check in the mirror every single morning with a sense of awe. Each small development was a victory. There were hard days, of course. The early effects of hormone replacement therapy were a second puberty, a roller coaster of mood swings and physical discomfort. I remember days I would dissolve into tears for no reason, and Maya would just hold me, her hand stroking my back as she whispered, "It's just the hormones, Allie. It's your body changing. It's working." We learned everything together. Maya learned how to help me with my weekly hormone injections, her hands steady and sure when my own were shaking too much. I started voice therapy, practicing pitch and resonance for hours until the soft, feminine voice I heard in my head began to match the one coming out of my mouth. We told our closest friends one by one. There were some confused looks and some awkward questions, but the people who truly mattered, our real friends, rallied around us with a fierce, protective love. It all started with that first consultation. Maya held my hand the entire time, sitting beside me in the office of a kind older woman, a gender therapist who listened to my story with empathy and without judgment. She celebrated with me when I got my first prescription for estrogen and spironolactone, and I held the little orange bottles in my hand like they were sacred artifacts. They were the keys to a door I was finally brave enough to walk through, all because Maya was there to turn the knob. That afternoon was the first day of the rest of my life. We didn't leave the apartment. We curled up on the couch, my head in Maya's lap, and we opened her laptop. We spent hours researching. We typed in phrases I had been too terrified to even think before. What does it mean to be transgender? How to start hormone replacement therapy? Finding a gender therapist. We read articles. We watched videos. We read personal essays from other women who had walked this path. We learned about HRT, about the physical and emotional changes it would bring, softer skin, fat redistribution, the suppression of one hormone and the introduction of another. We read about the long, often difficult process, therapy, doctor's appointments, legal name changes. It was overwhelming, daunting, but it was also hopeful. For the first time, there was a roadmap. My feelings weren't just a bizarre, isolated phenomenon. There was a name for it. There was a path forward. And looking at Maya, her brow furrowed in concentration as she read about the effects of estrogen, I knew I wouldn't have to walk that path alone. Late in the afternoon, a strange calm settled over me. The panic was gone, replaced by a quiet, steely resolve. I stood up and walked to the full-length mirror in our bedroom, the same mirror where this journey had begun. Maya came and stood behind me, her presence a warm, solid comfort. I looked at the reflection of the man in the mirror. I saw the fear in his eyes, but now I saw something else, too. A flicker of determination. He was just the starting point. I took a deep breath and spoke to the woman I knew was waiting inside. I spoke her name, not as a character in a fantasy, but as a declaration of intent, as a reclamation of my own soul. Alice, I whispered. The name felt more complete, more permanent than the one I had tried on before. That was the girl on the secret dates. Alice was the woman I would become. I said it again, louder this time, testing its weight, its shape. Alice. Maya moved closer, her body pressing against my back. She laid her hands flat on my chest, right over my heart. Her touch was a benediction. "Hello, Alice," she whispered, her voice full of love and welcome. It's so good to finally meet you. And in the mirror, through my tear-filled eyes, I saw us. Not a man and a woman, but two souls standing on the precipice of a new world, ready to jump in together. And for the first time, I wasn't scared of the fall. I was ready to fly. The confession hung in the air between us, final and irreversible. It was the truest thing I had ever said. I think I started, my voice trembling as I looked up at her from the cold bathroom floor. I think I'm a woman, Maya. And I don't just want to dress up as her anymore. I want to be her. For real. Maya didn't flinch. She just nodded slowly, a soft, understanding smile touching her lips. Okay, she said. Okay, Ellie. Hearing her say my name then, while I looked like this, a man hollowed out by grief and fear, was everything. It was permission. It was acceptance. It was a new beginning. Her words were a balm on my raw, terrified heart. Listen to me, she had said, her voice firm but gentle, her gaze unwavering. Last night wasn't about a costume. It wasn't about a game. I didn't fall in love with a character. I fell in love with you. The real you. The you that has been hiding inside for years. She took a deep breath. I love the person you are, the kind, funny, brilliant, and sensitive soul that I know. And I don't care if that soul comes in a male body or a female one. I love you. Whoever you are. It was a love so fierce and unconditional it took my breath away. And it was the only thing that could have pulled me back from the brink. The confession had tumbled out of me, a torrent of fear and confusion after I'd slid down the wall to the floor, burying my face in my hands as huge, gut-wrenching sobs tore through me. I wasn't just crying, I was grieving. Grieving for a life I couldn't live and terrified of the one I desperately wanted. Maya had just held me, stroking my hair, letting the storm pass. I can't go back after last night, I'd choked out, gesturing wildly at my own body, at my reflection in the mirror. I can't go back to being him. The panic had been a suffocating tide. I'd woken to the pale, unforgiving light of morning, and the euphoria of the night before had been replaced by a cold, creeping dread. The line between my two selves had been erased. The game was no longer a game. What had started as a secret curiosity had become my most fundamental truth. I'd stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, the tired eyes, the stubble, the look of sheer panic, and for the first time, seeing that face, my face, felt wrong. It felt like a mask. The costume wasn't the dress and the wig anymore. The costume was this male body. The costume was Alex. And the thought of living the rest of my life as him felt like a death sentence. That's when Maya had found me, wrapped her arms around me, and saved me from drowning. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Her lips found mine, and this time there was no hesitation, no stopping short. It was a kiss of searing intensity, of acceptance, of a final, beautiful surrender. As she kissed me, the last vestiges of the man I was supposed to be seemed to dissolve into the shadows, leaving only me, trembling and whole in her arms. Tonight, she had murmured, her arms sliding around my waist, pulling me tight against her as the seafoam green gown lay in a puddle at my feet. I'm going to teach you how to be a woman. A real one. Her hands had moved to the golden clasp on my shoulder, her fingers fumbling for a moment before it came undone. The sound of the zipper on my back being slowly pulled down was deafening in the silent room. I want to see the woman beneath the goddess, she'd whispered. Then, with painstaking slowness, she lifted the elaborate wig from my head, setting it gently on the dresser. She ran her fingers through my own short, messy hair as if reacquainting herself with the man underneath, but her eyes told a different story. She had guided me into the bedroom, her hands on my back, until I was pressed against the cool wall. She didn't turn on the main light, leaving us in the soft, intimate glow of the bedside lamp. Aphrodite, she breathed, her hands coming up to cradle my face. So beautiful. It had all started with a clumsy misstep. As she reached up to tuck a stray strand of the wig behind my ear, her foot caught on the edge of the rug. She stumbled forward, and her hands shot out to steady herself, landing squarely on my chest, on the firm silicone breast forms I wore beneath the flowing gown. I expected her to pull back immediately, to apologize, to feel awkward. She didn't. Her hands remained where they were, her body pressed against mine. She lifted her head, her face just inches from mine, her eyes dark and searching. "I've always wondered," she whispered, her voice a low, husky tremor. "I've always been so curious what this felt like." Slowly, deliberately, her fingers curled slightly, pressing into the soft forms. It was exploratory, questioning. "Do you like it?" she murmured. "When I touch you like this? Do you like being treated like a girl?" The question hung in the air, charged and heavy. All the games and secret adventures had led to this. I couldn't find my voice, so I just nodded. A single, slow, deliberate dip of my chin. A slow, smoldering smile touched her lips. Yes, Halloween had been a revelation. For the first time, I could go to a party, be in a crowd, and not feel like an imposter. I could simply be. "This is my friend, Ali," Maya said, introducing me with a casual ease to a group of her friends. "Ali, your costume is incredible," one of them gushed. "You look ethereal." "Thank you," I'd replied, my voice a soft, practiced alto. "You look amazing, too." With every compliment, with every easy interaction, another layer of my old anxiety sloughed away. I drank a little wine, swayed to the music, and for a few hours, I forgot to be scared. I was just Ali, a woman at a party, having a wonderful time with the woman she loved. Maya would catch my eye from across the sprawling loft apartment and give me a secret, encouraging smile. At one point, while we were dancing, she leaned in close, her lips brushing my ear. "You're the most beautiful goddess here tonight," she whispered, sending a shiver down my spine. We left a little after midnight, giddy from the wine and the energy of the night. The cool air felt wonderful on my bare arms as we walked the few blocks back to our apartment, our hands clasped tightly together. Our costumes had been planned for weeks. Maya went as Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. Her idea for me was Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. The costume was more ambitious than anything I had worn before, a floor-length seafoam green chiton, a classic Greek gown made of layers of gossamer-thin fabric that clung and flowed. It was sleeveless, draped over one shoulder, held by a golden clasp. To complete the look, Maya wove strands of gold ribbon and tiny pearls into an elaborate upswept wig. The makeup was bolder, with shimmering gold eyeshadow and a deeper red on my lips. When I was finally ready that evening, I looked in the mirror and felt a genuine, unadulterated sense of my own beauty. This wasn't just Alex in a dress anymore. This was a complete vision. Aphrodite stared back at me, serene and confident. She left me there on the sidewalk, my heart racing, my lips tingling, every nerve in my body alight with a desperate, wonderful wanting. It was a promise, not a rejection, a delicious, tantalizing hint of things to come. And in that moment, I knew that my life and my love for Maya would never be the same again. As we reached the car, parked on a quiet side street, Maya had suddenly stopped. Under the soft glow of a street lamp, she turned to face me, her expression serious, her eyes dark and intense. "You were amazing tonight," she said, her voice low. I was terrified, I admitted with a shaky laugh. "I know, but you were also brave. And you were breathtaking, Ali." She lifted her hand, her fingers gently tracing my jawline, a path she had touched 1,000 times before. But this time it was different. Her touch was exploratory, reverent. Her thumb came to rest on my lower lip, softly swiping over the smooth, waxy texture of the lipstick. "This color really does suit you," she whispered, her gaze holding mine. The world seemed to fall away. There was only the quiet street, the golden lamplight, and the intoxicating closeness of her. She leaned in slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. My own eyes fluttered shut in anticipation. I could feel her warm breath on my skin, could smell the vanilla and sandalwood of her perfume. This was it. She was going to kiss Ali. But then she stopped. Her lips hovered a mere inch from mine, the space charged with a million unspoken things. She stayed there for a heart-stopping moment, letting the tension build until it was almost unbearable. Then, just as slowly, she pulled back, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. "Come on," she said softly, her voice a little husky. "Let's get you home." A hot blush crept up my neck. The playful tease, the acknowledgement of the persona, it didn't feel mocking. It felt like the most profound form of intimacy. It felt like she was seeing all of me, Alex and Allie, and loving every part. "You can say her," I whispered back, my heart fluttering. I think Allie likes being called her." Our conversation flowed easily after that. We talked about everything and nothing, but the subtext was always there, this new dynamic between us. Maya kept reaching across the small, secluded table to touch my hand. At one point, she leaned in close, her voice dropping to an intimate whisper. "I love the way the light from that lamp is catching on your lips," she murmured, her eyes fixed on my mouth. "That color is perfect on you." Or should I say, on her. For the first time all night, I relaxed. I sat up a little straighter, letting my trench coat fall open to reveal the green dress. I was a woman sitting in a cafe having tea with another woman, and it felt more real than anything I had done that entire week. The moment the young barista with pink hair walked away, I looked at Maya, my eyes wide with a mixture of terror and glee. Maya was beaming, her face alight with pride. "See?" she whispered. "Ma'am." I couldn't help the giddy, incredulous laugh that escaped me. Ma'am. The word had hit me like a jolt of electricity. It was such a small thing, a simple courtesy, but in that moment, it was everything. It was validation. It meant the illusion was working. I was so stunned I forgot to speak for a second. I'll have the same," I'd managed to say, my voice a little higher, a little softer than usual. Walking from the car to the door of the cafe had been the longest 20 feet of my life. I was intensely aware of every sensation, the click-clack of my heels on the pavement, the swish of the dress against my legs, the cool night air on my face. But we had done it. We found a small table in the back. Allie was out in the world. Finally, after nearly 2 hours of preparation, Allie was ready. I looked in the mirror, and the woman from the other night was looking back at me, this time dressed for an evening out. The green dress complemented the brown wig perfectly. The makeup was subtle but effective. I looked plausible. "You are absolutely stunning," Maya whispered, coming to stand beside me. She was wearing a chic black turtleneck and tailored pants, looking effortlessly cool and confident. She took my hand. "Ready?" My heart was pounding, but I nodded. "As I'll ever be." The night of the date, our bedroom transformed into a dressing room. The air was thick with anticipation and the scent of hairspray. Maya was my director, my coach, my biggest cheerleader. There were new challenges this time. She showed me how to use shapewear to smooth my silhouette and create the illusion of softer curves. It was constricting and awkward, but when I put the dress on over it, I had to admit it made a remarkable difference. Then came the lesson in walking. Maya had me practice walking back and forth across our living room in the block heels. Heel, then toe. "Don't clump," she instructed, laughing as I wobbled like a newborn foal. "Small steps. Think graceful. You're not marching into battle." I felt clumsy and ridiculous. But I was also laughing with her. The shame that had been my constant companion was slowly being replaced by a shared joy, a sense of play. The preparation had begun a week earlier with a shopping trip. We didn't go to a mall, of course. Instead, we spent hours online, my laptop open between us on the bed. Maya acted as my personal stylist, her knowledge of cuts, fabrics, and fits leaving me in awe. "No, that neckline is too wide for your shoulders," she'd say, pointing at the screen. "We want something with a V-neck to draw the eye downward." She found a beautiful vintage-style tea dress in a deep forest green with a belted waist and a soft, flowing A-line skirt. It was modest, elegant, and utterly feminine. She helped me pick out a pair of low, comfortable block heels. "You have to learn to walk before you can run in stilettos," she'd quipped, and a simple trench coat, in case I got nervous and wanted to cover up. The items arrived in plain brown boxes, and hiding them in the back of my own closet felt like stashing treasure. And so, the experimental date was planned for the following Saturday. The thought was equal parts exhilarating and terrifying. Going outside as Allie, where people could see me, the potential for humiliation was astronomical. But the thought of being Allie again, of feeling that sense of rightness and sharing it with Maya in the real world, it was an irresistible pull. I I don't know, Maya, I'd stammered. What if someone recognizes me? What if people stare? Let them stare, she said fiercely, her hand closing over mine. You'll be beautiful and I'll be right there with you. It'll be our little secret adventure. The idea had been hers, of course. She came home from work about a week after the initial discovery, a determined glint in her eye. I was on the couch, sketching in my notepad, pretending to be the same old Alex. I have an idea, she announced, dropping her bag and kicking off her shoes. Oh yeah? I asked, looking up. Is it about what to have for dinner? Because I'm thinking pizza. Better than pizza, she said, coming over and perching on the arm of the couch. I think it's time Allie got to see the world. Or at least a small part of it that isn't our bedroom. My stomach did a nervous flip. What are you talking about? I'm talking about a date, she said, her smile widening. A proper date. Me and Allie. There's this little coffee shop I know on the other side of town. It's quiet, artsy. No one we know ever goes there. What do you think? In the days that followed that first night, it had become clear this wasn't just a one-time curiosity. Maya, in her infinite wisdom and compassion, seemed to understand that. She saw the profound peace that had settled over me, and instead of pushing it away, she leaned into it. She treated it not as a problem to be solved, but as an adventure to be embarked upon together. The secret of Allie lived in the quiet moments we stole for ourselves. On the surface, I was still Alex, going to my job, wearing my jeans and t-shirts. But underneath, everything was different. Leah, I said, the name feeling strange and perfect on my newly painted lips. I think her name is Leah. Maya squeezed my shoulders. Well, Leah, she said, her voice a warm, loving caress. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. The question had caught me off guard. Do you have a name? I hadn't thought that far. I looked at the woman in the mirror, at her soft features, her gentle expression. A name came to me unbidden, rising up from some deep, unknown place inside. The person looking back at me wasn't Alex anymore. It was someone else. A woman with wide, startled brown eyes, soft pink lips, and a cascade of chestnut hair. The dress, which had looked so wrong on my masculine frame before, now seemed to make sense. The makeup softened my features, the hair framed my face in a new way. The person in the mirror was pretty. A strange sense of rightness, of peace, settled over me. The frantic drumming in my chest quieted. Wow, I breathed, my voice a husky whisper. Maya was standing behind me, her hands on my shoulders, her own reflection next to this new woman in the mirror. She was smiling, a genuine, warm smile that reached her eyes. Wow, she agreed, her voice full of awe. Hello there. It's nice to meet you. And so began the most surreal hour of my life. Guided by Maya's gentle, patient hands, I underwent a transformation. She had me sit at her vanity. Her fingers were cool and deft as she blended foundation over my jaw to hide the shadow of my beard. She filled in my thick eyebrows to give them a softer arch. She chose a subtle pink lipstick, and as she carefully painted it onto my lips, her eyes met mine in the mirror. Your lips have a really nice shape, she said quietly. I never noticed that before. The final piece was the wig. She settled the mass of soft brown hair onto my head, brushing it out so the waves fell naturally. Then she stood back. Okay, she whispered. Look. Before I could protest, she was behind me again, gently pushing my hair back and sliding a soft headband into place. I want to, she'd said simply. I want to see it. I want to see what you see. She returned from the closet with a long, wavy brown wig and a pair of her heeled ankle boots. What if we went all the way? She had asked, a playful note in her voice. Her reaction had been so far outside the realm of what I had prepared for that my brain simply short-circuited. I had expected screaming, crying, accusations. I had not, under any circumstances, expected this gentle, baffling acceptance. A choked sob escaped my lips, and the tears I'd been holding back finally broke free. Hey, she murmured, her arms coming around me from behind, holding me steady. It's all right. I'm not mad. She rested her chin on my shoulder, and we stood like that for a long time, reflected in the mirror. A strange, impossible couple, a man in a dress, being held by the woman who owned it. "It's a little snug," she'd observed, her voice close to my ear. Her breath was warm against my skin. "We might have to find you one in your own size." Numbly, I had turned around, presenting my back to her. I heard her soft footsteps. Her touch was delicate as her fingers found the small, almost invisible zipper at the side of the dress. She slowly, carefully pulled it up. "The zipper's not all the way up," she had said, her voice a gentle murmur. "And it's a little crooked. You should let me help." I stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. "What?" A small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. She reached out, her fingers gently touching the silk on my shoulder. "Do you want to try it on properly?" she asked softly. She had stood there, her gaze fixed on me, her expression slowly softening from shock into a look of intense, gentle curiosity. "Okay," she said, her voice quiet and calm. "Explain." The words wouldn't come. "I don't know," I finally choked out, my eyes stinging with tears of humiliation. "I'm sorry. I wanted to know what it felt like." The bedroom door, which I had foolishly left ajar, swung open. Maya stopped dead in the doorway. A grocery bag slipped from her grasp, and a carton of eggs crashed to the hardwood floor with a sickening wet crunch. Her eyes went wide. They took in the scene before her, me, her boyfriend, standing in the middle of her bedroom, wearing her favorite silk dress. "Alex," her voice was a bare whisper. "What are you doing?" I had stepped into it, the silk sliding over my skin, a sensation so foreign and so electrifying it made me gasp. It was a second skin. I fumbled the delicate spaghetti straps onto my broad shoulders. The dress was tight across my chest, the fabric straining slightly. But I looked in the mirror, and for a split second, I saw something else. I saw the way the fabric draped, the color against my skin, and a strange ache in my chest intensified, mixed with a dizzying, terrifying thrill. It felt right. That was when I heard the key in the front door. My own reflection in the full-length mirror was a stranger, a guy with short brown hair, a day's worth of stubble, and wide, terrified eyes. My own clothes, worn-out jeans, and a faded band t-shirt suddenly felt like a cage. This dress was different. It was potential. A question. I'd been drawn to Maya's closet for weeks, my curiosity growing into a compulsion that had finally won. My heart was a wild drum against my ribs, a frantic rhythm that seemed loud enough to shake the whole apartment. My hand, trembling, held the silk of the dress. It was a whisper-thin slip of fabric, the color of a pale dawn sky, and it felt impossibly light, impossibly dangerous. I knew I shouldn't be doing this. But every time I saw Maya, my Maya, moving with such effortless grace in her dresses, a strange, persistent ache would settle deep in my chest. It wasn't just admiration. It was a longing, a bizarre form of envy that I couldn't name and didn't dare to examine too closely.